Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Rob. I hope you are all having a great new year. It's hard to believe it's already 2025. Um, First off, I apologize if I sound a little funny. I got a little cold, so that is why. But yeah, so the other day, I got a door right here beside me. The other day, I was browsing the internet, unsupervised, because my whole family was sick and in bed, and I stumbled upon a picture of a door style. I'll go ahead and throw it up on the screen here, and I was just curious if I can make that type of a style in VCarve with the tooling that I currently have, and so this is what I have come up with. I think it's pretty close. I think it looks pretty good, you know, considering it's out of one piece of MDF. Obviously, if you want that optimal look, you know, it needs to be like a 5-piece door. I think is optimal, but I think I got pretty close with the tooling I have. So the only thing that I would do different, if I could, is that these inner grooves, I only have an 1/8 inch bit. That's the smallest I have. I'll go over my tooling here that I use here in a second. But eighth inch is okay, but I would prefer like a 16th inch end mill if I could go back and do it again, or if I start doing something like this, because I think just a little bit smaller will look nicer. But I used what I had, and that's kind of what I had to do. So let me talk to you about the tooling real quick that I used, and then we're going to jump into VCarve Pro, and I'm going to show you how I designed this door. So let me spin the camera around. All right, from left to right, I have my, it's a diamond, I think it's like 1 1/8 tool that I use to hog this out. We've got a V-bit here. This is a fat one. This is all that I had, so I used the V-bit for these lines right here. Then we've got the 1/8 inch end mill here, so that's what I used for the inner lines. This is a 3/8 compression from LMT Tooling, and if we get it to focus, that's just what I used to do the final cutout. And then I got a 1/4 inch end mill that does the inner, it does something, part of the shaker. So all in all, pretty standard tooling. These three are the easiest to get set up, and then, you know, you've got V-bits, which some people may have, some people may not. And then, you know, this here. So pretty standard tooling, you know, relatively standard. Nothing, I'm not using anything crazy. So anyway, so let's jump into VCarve and let's take a look at setting it up. All right, so we are here in VCarve Pro, and this is the more or less the final output that I came up with. So how did we get to here? So we're going to close out, and we are going to create a new file. All right, so I'm going to be using on this one, we'll just do the default 96 by 48. That's fine. We're going to do this at a 3/4 MDF. All right, that all looks good. And let's hit OK. All right, so on this particular example, what I'm going to do is we're going to basically start out with building just a regular shaker style door. Or what I'm going to do, it's like if I was just going to do a regular shaker door. So let's draw a rectangle, and I'm going to make sure on this one that I have the doors oriented just in a certain way, just because it's easier for me to think about. And like the longer part of the doors, I want to be going this way, at least as long as they're not bigger than 48 inches, because that's my width. And that's just because I'm designing from this point here, and so I'm going to be making lines that go up and down, and it's just easier for my brain to think about. And then this is the orientation on how my machine board wants to lay on the machine. So let's say the width of this. We'll do it simple. Let's just say we want 10 And I might have to, let's just do 10 by 28. And I might have to do this the other way. I'm trying to think. So width is, let's try this. Yeah, okay, so this is the way I want it. So I want the long part of the door to go up and down here. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so from here, I'm gonna rename this layer. We'll just call this base layer. We'll leave it black. And we're going to select this and we're going to do an inner offset. And normally, so if I offset this 2.25 is how thick I normally have my, uh, like if this was your shaker door, 2.25 is for me is our standard from here. Uh, but because I'm going to actually have to take off some meat at the end of this one, I did it. Sorry for that. So I need to add an eighth to that. So what I'm going to do, so I could either do inward, do my 2.25, and then do another 0.125 from here. That's one way to do it. And then I could just delete this line, or you could just do the add an eighth to the 2.25, and you arrive at the same result. So however you want to do it. Okay, so how do we start making the patterns? Well, the first thing, if for some reason this is not at the bottom right corner, we need this to zero out at the X and Y position. It's just easier for my brain to think about it. Whenever I do designing, always at that bottom 0, 0. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a vertical line. I'm going to right click and we're going to do it dead center of our whole door. So 5 inches because I did 10 wide, so 5. Uh, 5, and so that puts us dead center. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make we'll do another folder. And the reason I'm doing different layers is so I can deactivate them and hide them. So we'll do this center line. We'll just make it that color. And doesn't matter. I'm just using this line as a reference. Let's turn on snapping. And this is just going to be here down the center. Okay, so let's delete this guide for a second because I don't think I need it. Actually, well, we'll put it back just in case. I can't remember if I needed it or not, but we'll go ahead and just put it back just in case. Okay, so what I'm going to do from here is when I design this, I try to stay procedural. Like I don't want to do like just too much artistic stuff. Like I want to be able to kind of like replicate the process if I have to. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a guide. Let's do an angle guide 45. And is it positive or negative? Okay, whatever. We'll start with the positive here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this down here to where it intersects that line. Okay, so you guys gonna just have to bear with me on this step. So actually, I don't know if I need it or not, but anyway, okay. So let's create. I'm gonna create another new layer, and we're gonna call this, I don't know, zigzag pattern. So this will be the center pattern. Let's pick like a green. That works. And so with that selected, I'm going to go to my line tool and I'm going to go up. And so this is going to be kind of the distance like you want the thickness. And for this one we'll do 1 inch just because, and I feel like I'm not in inches. Am I not in inches? Let's take a look at here. Options. Where would we find that? Should be like edit. Come on, I know it's got to be here somewhere. Maybe it's in here. Am the biggest idiot in the world. It was actually it's in inches. I was just zoomed way too far, and I was just seeing a very small increment of inches. Okay, so now that my brain has aligned with the fact that it's 2025 and not 2024 anymore, let's go to 1 inch right there. Okay, so I'm at 1 inch here, and I think I need to delete this for 1 second. Uh, Actually, I need to put this back. I apologize. I am all over the place today. Okay, so we're gonna drag this back down. Okay, so before I delete this one, I'm gonna actually I'm gonna go to guide properties and I'm gonna do relative to guide, and we're gonna do 30 times at 1 inch, and I think I go positive. Nope, I go negative. All right. Okay, so that's going to put that angle guide all the way up. And so this particular guide, I don't think I need it anymore. So I'm going to delete this one. And now we're going to do another angle at negative 45. And I'm going to drag this one just to the tip of this line. And the thing is, like, if you get close, if you get really close, like it might look, it'll connect it for you. So okay, so now we're going to do the same thing here, and maybe this is positive. I don't know. We're going to end up with guides all over the place. Okay, there we go. So this looks like a mess of guides, but it'll get us going, and all we're going to do is we're going to go to our draw lines under our zigzag pattern, and we're going to start at the edge of this, and we're just going to go one square over each side of the center line. Boom. Just like this. Okay. All right. So remember that center line? Let's go ahead and hide that. And then, because we don't really need that. And then let's click this to hide the guides for a second. All right. So we have our zigzag. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and so this is where we want to be, right? So that for this door. However, what if you have, you want to do something like this? Doesn't have to necessarily be this design, but this concept carries true. What if we got taller doors and we don't want to do this doodle every time? Like, so how do we start? Like, how can we make like kind of like a template to go off of, more or less? So if we turn the guides back on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this center line back on so we can see it. And I'm going to actually finish this out. So right now we are um, we're here. So we're here. So we're gonna actually have to. We're gonna start off at the edge of this, And we'll join these here in a second, but we're going to continue on for a while. And how far? Well, that depends on, you want to be bigger than your biggest door. You can always delete it down. So as long as it's taller than your tallest door, we can use this. And we've still got that center guide. So we'll just do this for now. Okay, so let's delete this and see what we got going. Okay, so we've got this continuing on, and so that way, if you guys can kind of get my my thought process, we can crop it down to the smaller doors. But as long as we got this like this bigger size. Okay, so before we start cropping it down, what do we do next? Well, we'll stay in the zigzag pattern. So all we're going to do here is we're going to go to each point. We're going to go bigger than what we need, but we're going to go a 45-degree angle, and it should snap when you're close to 45. There we go. And we'll do the same here. So a little tedious, it can be a little tedious, but it will snap. Like once you get close, it will snap to the 45, just like that. And so basically, I'll speed this up, but I'm just going to go off of each one all the way out past where we need. All right, so here we are with that finished pattern. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn off everything but these green lines, and we're going to right click and hit J to join. And if it doesn't join, for some reason I was having issues with this all joining together. Let's ungroup it for a second. Uh, I'm just going to select them all, and I'm just going to group them together. It'll all work the same. So, all right, so we've got that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to Control C and Control V. We're going to copy and paste this. In fact, actually, let's undo that a second. Let's put this center line in there. We'll keep that center line. We're going to Control C, Control V. And we're just going to put this off to the side somewhere. And this is going to be what you can grab. And we're going to use that if you want to make a second, door that is a different size. So with that out the way, we'll keep that over there safe and sound. Let's go back in here and let's turn on everything. Let's turn off the center line because we don't need that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to start trimming this down, but I cannot actually do that with it grouped. So let's ungroup it. That was just to kind of get those over there. So let's ungroup it and let's start cutting stuff away, which we don't need any of that. No, in fact, a lot of this stuff here, let's just click here, hit delete. We'll delete some of these. So here's where we'll start trimming. Don't need that. Need that. We don't need any of these. Looks like there's some duplicate lines, maybe. I don't know why there would be duplicates. Unless I accidentally copied and pasted over that and didn't move it and went undo. But anyway, let's go ahead and just keep going. Okay. So we can see that we're almost there. You know, we've got the hard part out of the way, and like I said, we just if you want to do another door, we've got this guy over here, so we don't have to do that all over again. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put those little lines here to kind of simulate a five-piece door. So let's make. I'm just gonna do it on this one. I'm actually gonna do a new layer. I was gonna put it on the base layer, but I want to actually make this a different color. Let's do red, and we'll just do. That's because I'm gonna have to offset it a little bit because if you remember, so let's go ahead first and let's put these here. Let's go ahead and do that for all four. And the reason, okay, so if you remember at the beginning, I made this a little fatter by 1/8 because we're going to have to do a cleanup pass. And because of that, I'm actually going to offset these lines out and uh, we're going to do it a 16th. And that's just because so that way it lines up once we do the trim on the inside. So we're going to do 0.065, I believe. And don't we'll just pick one. And yep, so that was correct. So in fact, you know what? Actually, I think I actually did this we did this. Let's do it a 32nd, not a 16th. So let's consult my handy dandy Answered magnet decimal chart, and we're going to actually put in 0.3125. And that is what we're going to offset. And I'm doing this based on my with trial and error with my machine and my tooling. So it's a good chance, you're going to have to do a little tweaking on your own based on your situation. But this got me where I needed to be. And so remember, I'm going out because I'm going to do a cleanup pass here. So I'm going to go ahead and leave. I'm going to leave. Well, just so it's not confusing in this video, I will go ahead and I will delete the second line or the original line we did just for the sake of easy readability on the screen. Okay, so we are basically there. So we have the whole door. So now, if we go to 3D view, we don't have anything because we got to start assigning tools to it. And so this is, this is where I'm going to show you my tooling, what I did, and then you guys can use whatever tools that you guys have at your availability. So to start this, we're going to kind of think about it. The order of operations. For me, I thought it was logical to start with the shaker door, the plain shaker door look, and that's going to be our starting point. So for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this inner square and we're going to go to pocket path. And for this one, I'm only going to go down a 1/4 inch. Doesn't really matter, but I'm using that 1 1/8 end mill or what I use to hog out the bulk of everything, and then we're just going to drop down to a 1/4 inch. And on my passes, I'm gonna drop that down to 2. And that one will do 1. In fact, we could probably, we'll just leave that at 2. So we'll call this center, center pocket. And we'll leave everything else as is. And we'll go ahead and calculate that. And what that does, if we just take a look at it, that gives us our center pocket. Okay, so now from here, what we're gonna do is I'm actually going to grab all of these. In fact, let's go over here real quick and I'm going to group all of these together because I wanted just to do it in one pass, one tool assignment. Okay, so now that I've got those selected, I'm going to, we're going to go over here to the profile toolpath and uh, we're going to go down 1/16 past a quarter of an inch. So again, let's consult uh, the on-grid conversion chart. So that chart tells us we need to be at point 3125. And over here, we're going to make sure we've got our 1/8 inch end mill selected. This is where I wish we had a 16th end mill, but I don't. So on passes here, if we leave it at 11, it does not know that we have already gone down a quarter of an inch. And so it's thinking out of the 3/4 inch material, to be safe, it says we need to do it in 11 passes. However, all that material's gone. So if you leave it at 11, it will take forever, and we only need one pass for this. We're going to go on the line, and we are going to do, uh, we're going to call this zigzag pattern. Now, if you try to use a, let's say like a V-bit here, let's go ahead and calculate that. Basically, it's saying, hey, you've got a group with lines that are not joined, but I just said, okay, it just doesn't matter. Follow the lines. So the it might be tempting to use a V-bit for this, and it might look nicer, but the problem with a V-bit you're going to have is that coming towards these ends with that taper, you're going to have a hard time cleaning that up, and you're probably going to end up with a line. If you do clean it up enough to where it's smooth on the edges, your line here is not going to touch. So, okay, wow, that looks pretty good. So what do we want to do now? So let's go ahead back to our 2D view and we're going to click this again. And now we're going to basically, we're going down only a quarter of an inch. We're gonna keep our 1/8 inch bit selected. I'm gonna go back down to one pass. And I'm gonna stay on the line and let's see how it is. And basically we're just going to use half of that bit, so the 16 inch to kind of go over here and smooth it out where we can see these little marks where the tool hits here. So we're going to call this inner clean. That works for me. We're going to hit calculate and let's see what we've got here. Yeah, it's preview visible. And there we go. So, the inherent struggle with doing this out of one piece is that, if you look close, we're not going to get it's not going to be absolutely perfect as if this was its own back piece behind it, but it gets us really close to where I think, it's you can get away with it. Okay, so now let's take a look at these here. So let's close out here. We're going to do the same thing here, but on this one, we're only going to go down a 64th. 0.015625. So we're just going to go down to 64th with this one. I just want to basically touch it. And, I think that in all honesty, so this is a fat V-bit. It's not ideal for it, but again, it's what I have to work with. We're going to go on the line. I might not have it inputted correctly. So when I did a trial run, it looked like it was going pretty deep, but we're just going to put V1 for VBit 1. So let's go ahead and calculate that. Let's take a look at here. We'll do preview visible, and that looks good enough for me. So that's good enough for me to where it'll line up with that edge. So let's go ahead and do that for each one. Let's keep that. We'll call this V2 for VBit 2. Let's take a look at this. Preview visible. That looks good enough for me. And let's do the same down here. All right, let's do V3. Preview visible. Let's go to, and then we'll do V4. And preview visible. So, all right, that looks good. So the last thing we have to do is just the outer cutout. So for that, we're going to go the full thickness. We're going to use a 3/8 compression bit. That 3/8 compression bit I showed you. We're always going to go outside on these, and I'm just going to name this cut through, just because I know it's going to go all the way down and hit the spoil board. So we'll hit calculate, preview visible, and there we have it. So if we delete that and we take a look, um, yeah, it looks pretty good. And there's going to be a little bit of trial and error. When you do stuff like this, like you're just going to kind of have to run it, and then you might find that these needed to be moved over just ever so slightly, or whatever it is. And one thing to keep in mind too, that I kind of was battling early on, is the accuracy of the tool information inside of your tool library will kind of throw off your real world. So like, where, for example, I had my hogger off on the diameter just a little bit, and I was having problems with my corners. And so when I took the calipers, I actually took a caliper reading of that tool itself, and over time it was kind of wearing in a little bit. And so like I updated to to the actual, before it wore, what the diameter, should be. I was actually off like an eighth of an inch or something, but it was enough to where it was graphically, it was throwing it off. And then when I would try to run it, it was off because it wasn't accurate tool information. So just keep that in mind, if you're uh, doing stuff like this. But yeah, so all in all, I think it turned out pretty successful. Not probably not 100% like the 5-piece door, but it gets you very close. So, anyways, thanks for watching, and we will see you guys in the next video.